ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, everything in between, good morning or night. You may know me as Aku, Akubarix, or however you horribly butcher my name because reading English is hard. I'm here to talk about elements and why the star system is stupid, and why you shouldn't focus on elemental quote-unquote weaknesses, end quote, especially if you're new to the series. And a lot of you are hard off the presses from playing RPGs where elemental weaknesses are monumentally huge, like you play Final Fantasy 2 through whatever, or 1 through whatever, or whatever Dragon Quest, or any RPG that has a quote-unquote weakness, and you'll notice that you hit something with fire, it takes like 6 times the amount of damage. So, this game does not do a good job of explaining this to you, especially when you look at... Ready for it? Ready? I'm going to open it up. This stupid-ass star system. So, we're going to go look at a further breakdown, which for some reason it's at the bottom of the screen, instead of it, like, popping up so you can just look at it. You'll see that there's no actual numbers here, no numerical values. They're stars. So I'm going to tell you why the star system is absolutely freaking stupid, and why they need to, like, do a patch to put the numbers back. Now, we're not looking at the weapon stars. We're looking at the elements. Now, if you look, there's 5 elements. Fire, water, thunder, ice, and dragon, in that order from left to right. One of them has 2 stars. And I bet those of you looking at this would automatically assume, because you're able to think and conscientiously defer, that's what you should use. Correct? You're like, oh man, look at all that dank fire damage, all double the stars. Let me tell you why it's a little deceptive. So, if you look, again, I'm assuming you've clicked off the video, you're like doing yoga or what the hell you're doing, you're not actually watching the screen. 2 stars, 1 star, and there's even an X. So the X means your element is completely freaking nulled. You don't do any elemental damage with it. So obviously it's an ice dragon, no damage. I'm going to explain to you the numerical values. So if I were to bonk him on the head with a fire weapon on a non-weak point, a regular point, neutral damage, he takes 20% of that fire elemental damage value. Alright, so 20%. So if you're doing, I don't know, 10 damage, divide that by the 20%, and that's how much damage you'll be doing. Now, here's why this is stupid. You see how there's 1 star next to the other 3 elements? You would think that because of how math works, that's 10 damage, because it's half the number of stars. Or maybe you think, hey, it's 5 less damage, or whatever. It's 5. He takes 5% of the total elemental values from those damage figures, which is abysmal and nowhere near accurate to 2 stars in this case. So 20.5505 if you're reading it from left to right. Now, again, those of you hot off the presses. So what's the big deal? So this is our training dummy. Its elemental values are 15, which pretty close to Jin's head value. Now, 15, depending on who you ask, isn't a whole lot of damage. And I'm also using great swords for the sake of this video. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to do a neutral overhead, which means I'm not charging it. Great sword's a slow weapon, for those of you not in the know. Elements are kind of like a sweet little tasty bonus for it. So this has paralysis element on it, but for those of you who don't know, status elements don't do damage outside of poison, which even then poison doesn't do damage, the actual affliction causes it. It's good to know if you're using status elements. So you're not going to do bonus damage if you see the paralysis, sparks proc. It's not going to do bonus damage, except for the damage you get to do when it's paralyzed, sitting there dumb as dicks, unable to move. Okay, so watch. And before I go, ignore that, just watch. Actually, no, keep watching. If you look, these are the stat comparisons. So on the left is its natural status. On the right is the final total status. And this is important because 200 attack, 500 element. And then you look at our bonus control here, 210, 780 ice element. Now I made sure to try to keep the sharpness as close as possible, and I purposely picked this weapon with 10 more raw attack power. Because they're pretty close, and at the end of the day, you'll see the damage figures are roughly about the same. Spoilers for whatever. Now, I chose to wear armor that has no chance to crit, so basically there's going to be no random variables. Now, let's do our natural hit. Whip it out. On the side here. Now the sides are again 15. So, that is 219. This, again, no element. Popping off. Boing. Stupid bird. This is the one with ice element on it. So, as you can see, it's about 40 more damage. And honestly, most of that comes from the raw difference. Now what I'm going to do is the Greatsword's bread and butter, which is a true charge slash. So the Greatsword charges its attack, and it actually gets a bonus. This is a weak spot now, so get ready. 582. So what I'm going to do, and keep 582 in your mind. Yeah, I wanted to go up the hill, you stupid bird. We're going to make another wound. So ignore the damage this is doing, unless you really want to follow it. Because I'm just trying to make a weak spot. Okay. .516. Now, if you're using any other weapon type, that's kind of a lot of damage. But with a Greatsword, I would argue it's negligible because it's bulk damage you want. You want to do more than 80 damage. You want to do triple digits, which is what the Greatsword does in a single hit, which is why you have to sit there and charge the damn thing for most of the fight. Give or take tackling and other stuff. Listen, it's not a Greatsword tutorial. The point is, there's not a whole lot of damage difference here. And I'm not saying elements are bad. This isn't me pooping on elements, don't think that. What I'm saying is, if you're using a slow lumbering weapon, you should see damaging elements as a delicious bonus. It's whipped cream on top of the chocolate cake, or whatever cake you prefer, or whatever topping you prefer. It is not the see-all, be-all of what you're trying to do. If you're using something like dual swords, SNS, insect glaive, long swords, and SNS, by the way, is sword and shield, then you want to consider elements. But even then, remember, the only reason why the elements are working for you there is because you're hitting a lot, you're hitting often, you're hitting with a high frequency of attacks. Great swords and heavier weapons don't have this luxury, so it's less to their benefit. Now it's not, again, to make sure we're clear, it is not worthless. Because as you can see, it did more damage, but most of that actually stems from the fact that this thing has 10 more raw. Now raw means the actual physical damage. And if you test the little star system here, again, this is more of a jab at the star system than anything else. The star system's fucking stupid. It needs to be further explained. And there's more to the Greatsword here. If you hit the first flip, it does more damage when your true charge connects, which is why I'm purposely missing the first hit every time. You can also do this to practice on a sleeping monster, but that's another story for another video. So this is a super mega loosely explained, you've never played Monster Hunter before guide. This is not a super in-depth tutorial. This is for people who have never played a Monster Hunter title. So if you need further insight or help, you could comment, or if you know me, you could hit me up. But the TLDR, if you want to save a whole bunch of time, and for some reason you're still here, don't worry about elements too much unless using a small, fast weapon. Or just a fast weapon. Alright, that's it. You guys have fun. This is Aku, over and out. Alright, so here's round 2 for duels, just to make sure we're a little more clear on the subject. So both my dual blades, uh, same attack power. One has 252 dragon, and one has 170 poison, but again, the poison is not important, so essentially it's a raw dual elemental set. By raw, I mean there's no elements. Alright, so this has 16 dragon by default, 252 when I bump it up, and this neutral. Now, I had to dull this weapon down. It has white sharpness, and white sharpness does more damage than blue by default. So what we're going to do is I'm going to do the basic attack string combo on the side here, and then I'm going to stop the string. So I'm bouncing off the side, so I need to aim a little better. As you see, it's 180 damage. Again, for those of you who didn't watch the last video, this thing has 15% as a starter guide for elements. So ignore this, I'm just going to break the wound. Alright, again, full combo string. $130. One more time, we're going to pull out the duels. $166. And I made a wound. So, for a weapon that swings as fast as this, that is a big deal. If I could stop bouncing off that, that'd be great. That's just heavy. You know, let's go for the front. Let's try the front with duels. So, full combo string. Total 185. $130. So as you can see, with dual blades, elements are kind of important because they hit fast and they build up over time. Now we got a wound. We're gonna break that wound just to get it out of here. So it's important to use elemental weapons, you know, as a supplement. Because look at that, even without wounds, it did 166. Let's try it with wounds. 185. So yeah, when it comes to elements, you want your duels to have elements. And those are kind of an addendum to the greatsword version of this, and we're using the front end, but it still applies. All these motion values that you can look up on your own will also help you if you want more information. But basically, that element goes a long way with a weapon like this, where it doesn't go as far with a greatsword. There you go, it's your addendum. Go on, get out of here, go play a little scamp, have fun, have a great day, and remember, winners don't do drugs. Unless they're already winning, in which case, if they won, they do drugs. I'm out.